Imagine feeling your heartbeat stop, not because you're dying, but because your heart has just been replaced by a system of interlocking gears and brass springs. You aren't dead, but you are no longer human. You are becoming a machine, one ticking second at a time. Item number SCP-217, Object Class, Keter. Special containment procedures are as follows. All personnel entering the containment area for SCP-217 must wear full-body Level 4 biohazard suits. Upon exiting the containment zone, all individuals, including any equipment used, must undergo a rigorous 45-minute decontamination process involving high-heat sterilization and chemical baths. If a containment breach occurs, the affected area is to be sealed immediately. All personnel trapped within the containment zone during a breach are to be considered lost and, if necessary, terminated via remote incineration once the conversion process reaches the final stage. Under no circumstances are any clockwork or mechanical anomalies to be brought within 500 meters of SCP-217's containment cell. This is to prevent cross-contamination or unforeseen mechanical resonance. Description: SCP-217 is a virus that is, currently, incurable. It is highly contagious with a 100% infection rate upon exposure. It affects all members of the kingdom Animalia, including humans. The virus is spread through physical contact or contact with infected bodily fluids. SCP-217 is remarkably hardy and can survive for years outside of a host body. The progression of the virus is slow, sometimes taking several months for the full conversion to take place. This slow pace is what makes it so insidious. In the early stages, the symptoms are almost invisible. An infected individual might feel a slight lethargy or perhaps some stiffness in the joints. Many mistake it for the flu or common arthritis. However, the internal changes are already underway. SCP-217 works by slowly rewriting the organic cellular structure of the host. It replaces biological tissue with various forms of clockwork machinery. This is not a merger of man and machine, but a total replacement. Organic muscle is converted into intricate systems of gears, pulleys, and springs. Bone is replaced by hardened brass or steel. Even the blood is changed, thickening and darkening into a substance resembling heavy industrial lubricant. As the infection progresses, the skin of the subject begins to change. It becomes tough, leathery, and eventually metallic to the touch. In the later stages, the skin may even take on a segmented, plate-like appearance, resembling the scales of a serpent or the joints of a knight's armor. Perhaps the most horrifying aspect of SCP-217 is that the subject remains fully conscious throughout the entire process. Because the nervous system is replaced by fine copper wiring and mechanical relays, the subject continues to feel everything. They feel their organs being ground down and reshaped. They hear the constant rhythmic ticking emanating from their own chest. They feel the grinding of gears where their lungs used to expand. Observation has shown that during the middle stages of infection, subjects become extremely distressed. They report a sensation of crawling under their skin, which is actually the movement of newly formed gears finding their place. However, as the virus reaches the brain, a strange mental shift occurs. When the brain is converted into a mechanical analog, a complex series of punch cards and brass logic gates, the subject's personality begins to flatten. They lose emotional depth. They become repetitive in their speech and actions. They start to operate on a fixed schedule, performing tasks with a robotic, haunting precision. They do not seem to feel pain in the same way we do, or if they do, they can no longer express it. They simply tick. Addendum 217A, Experiment Log. Subject D883 was intentionally exposed to SCP-217 via a minor skin abrasion. Week 1, D883 reported feeling stiff and complained of a metallic taste in his mouth. Physical examination showed no outward changes. Week 3, subject's skin began to show signs of petrification. A biopsy was attempted, but the surgical needle snapped against the subject's thigh. D883 reported that he could hear a faint clicking whenever he moved his left arm. Week 6, the clicking has become audible to researchers standing 3 meters away. D883's left hand has been entirely converted. The fingers now move via a series of visible miniature pistons. The subject expressed extreme panic, begging researchers to stop the clock. Week 9, conversion has reached the torso. D883 no longer requires food or water. His digestive system has been replaced by a series of chemical fats that break down organic matter into oil for his internal gears. His breathing has become a mechanical wheeze, like a bellows being pumped. Interestingly, he has stopped screaming. When asked how he feels, he replied, "The timing is slightly off. I need calibration." Week 12, subject D883 is now fully converted. He no longer speaks unless spoken to. He spends 18 hours a day standing in the corner of his cell, swaying slightly in time with his internal gears.
He has become a perfect autonomous machine. When a researcher accidentally dropped a pen near him, D883 calculated the trajectory, caught it midair with mechanical precision, and handed it back without a word. His eyes are now glass lenses with brass shutters. Addendum 217B, the Schwarzwald Incident. SCP-217 was first discovered in a small, isolated village in the Swiss Alps. Local authorities contacted the Foundation after reports of a silent plague. When containment teams arrived, they found a village of 120 people who had all been infected. The scene was described by recovery teams as eerie. The villagers were not dead, but they were no longer human. They were performing their daily chores in perfect silence. The blacksmith was hammering a piece of iron, but his arm was a massive rusted piston. The children were playing in the square, but their laughter sounded like a recording being played on a scratched vinyl record. The most disturbing discovery was the village clock tower. The villagers had dismantled the original mechanism and integrated themselves into it. 6 individuals had been disassembled and rebuilt into the tower's clockwork heart, their gears turning in unison to keep the village on Foundation standard time. They were still alive, their mechanical eyes blinking in rhythm with the swinging of the pendulum. All villagers were designated as SCP-217-1 through 120 and transported to Site Ares for study. During transport, one subject, a young woman, began to leak a high-pressure steam from her neck. She didn't seem to notice until her head was physically launched from her shoulders by the pressure. The head, now a brass orb, continued to recite the Lord's Prayer for 3 hours after the accident. Addendum 217C, Biological Analysis of the Clockwork State. Research into the final stages of SCP-217 has revealed a terrifying durability. Because the subjects are no longer biological, they do not suffer from cellular decay, oxygen deprivation, or starvation. They are effectively immortal, provided their gears do not rust or jam. In one test, a fully converted D-class subject was placed in a vacuum chamber. The subject showed no signs of distress. Without air to vibrate, the ticking sound stopped, but the subject continued to function perfectly. When the chamber was repressurized, the subject simply resumed his previous task of counting the rivets in the wall. Conventional weapons are largely ineffective. Bullets tend to ricochet off the hardened brass casing, or pass through non-essential gear systems without causing death. To terminate a subject, one must either melt them down entirely, or crush the central logic core located where the brain used to be. Even then, the individual parts may continue to twitch and spin for days. The most concerning property discovered is resonance. When multiple infected subjects are in close proximity, their internal clocks begin to synchronize. Over time, they start to move in unison like a single massive machine spread across multiple bodies. It is theorized that if enough people were infected, they would eventually form a global hive mind, a single ticking entity that would replace the biosphere entirely. There is no cure, there is no vaccine. We have tried every antiviral in the Foundation's arsenal, along with several experimental SCP treatments. Nothing slows the gears. If you ever find yourself feeling a little stiff, if you notice your skin feels colder than it should, or if you hear a faint rhythmic ticking coming from somewhere inside your chest, do not go to a doctor, do not hug your family. Stay where you are and wait for the containment team. You are already a part of the machine. For more files on the anomalies that threaten our world, subscribe now.